The silent approach, the void between stars, had always been humanity's greatest frontier. But on that cold morning in 2157, it became our greatest threat. Commander Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, her weathered hands gripping the tactical display as red dots materialized across the star chart. Each dot represented something that shouldn't exist. Ships moving through space with technology decades beyond human capability. Sarah had spent 23 years defending Earth's outer colonies, fighting pirates and mediating trade disputes. She'd seen her share of unusual spacecraft designs, but nothing like this. The alien vessels appeared organic, their hulls pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that seemed almost alive. They moved in perfect formation, like a school of deep-sea predators hunting in the cosmic dark. "Ma'am, we're receiving scattered distress signals from Mining Station Alpha 7, reported Lieutenant Marcus Webb, his young face pale against the blue glow of his console. "The transmission cut out 3 minutes ago." Sarah closed her eyes for a moment, knowing what that silence meant. Alpha 7 housed over 2,000 miners and their families, extracting rare elements from the asteroid belt. It was humanity's most remote outpost, positioned perfectly to serve as an early warning system for exactly this kind of threat. "Send word to Earth Command immediately," Sarah ordered. "Full alert status. Tell them we have first contact and it's not friendly." The alien fleet consisted of 47 vessels, ranging from sleek fighters to massive dreadnoughts that dwarfed humanity's largest battleships. They moved with purpose, ignoring the smaller human patrol ships and mining platforms as they advanced toward the inner solar system. Their destination was clear: Earth itself. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the Defiance's xenobiology specialist, studied the sensor readings with growing concern. "Commander, these ships don't match any theoretical designs in our databases. The energy signatures are completely foreign. It's like they're powered by controlled organic fusion, but the scale is impossible." Sarah nodded grimly. "How long until they reach Mars orbit?" "At their current speed, 18 hours, Webb answered. "Earth's defense fleet is mobilizing, but they won't be in position for another day." The next few hours unfolded like a nightmare. Humanity attempted every diplomatic protocol in the book, broadcasting messages in mathematical sequences, prime numbers, and universal constants. They transmitted Earth's cultural achievements, scientific discoveries, and peaceful intentions. The aliens responded with silence, their biomechanical ships continuing their relentless advance. When the alien fleet reached the outer defense perimeter, they encountered humanity's first line of defense: automated sentry platforms equipped with railguns and nuclear warheads. The platforms opened fire, unleashing humanity's most destructive weapons. The aliens didn't even slow down. Energy shields shimmered around their vessels, absorbing the impacts like raindrops on glass. Sarah watched the tactical display as red icons representing human defenses winked out one by one. "They're not even considering us a real threat," she muttered. "We're insects to them." That's when the first alien transmission finally came through. Not words, but images burned directly into every human communication network. Cities in flames, humans kneeling before towering alien figures. Earth transformed into something unrecognizable. It was a declaration of conquest, delivered with cold efficiency. "Ma'am, Earth Command is ordering all available ships to form a defensive line at Mars," Webb reported. "We're to link up with the First Fleet and make our stand there." Sarah looked at her crew, good people who had served faithfully in peacetime and were now facing humanity's darkest hour. Set course for Mars, maximum speed. The journey to Mars was tense, filled with preparations for a battle none of them expected to survive. Sarah walked through the ship's corridors, visiting each department. In the engineering section, Chief Petty Officer James Morrison and his team worked frantically to boost the ship's weapons and shields. In the medical bay, Dr. Patricia Wells prepared for casualties that would likely overwhelm her small facility. "Commander," Morrison called out as Sarah passed the main reactor, "I've been thinking about these alien ships. If they're truly biological, they might have vulnerabilities we can exploit." "What do you mean?" "Living things need to maintain homeostasis, balance. Push them too far outside their comfort zone, and they start to break down. Maybe we can't match their firepower. But we might be able to disrupt their systems. Sarah nodded, thoughtfully. Work on it, Chief. Any advantage we can find might save lives. When the human fleet assembled at Mars, it was an impressive sight. Over 300 ships from across the solar system, ranging from massive dreadnoughts to nimble corvettes. Sarah had never seen so many human vessels in one place. It represented the combined might of every Earth colony, mining operation, and trading post. Admiral Catherine Ross, commanding from the UES Sovereign, addressed the fleet over the General Communication Channel. Today, we fight not just for Earth, but for the right of humanity to exist among the stars. These invaders believe we're primitive, defenseless. Let's show them what human determination looks like. The alien fleet approached Mars' orbit like a dark tide. Up close, their ships were even more unsettling. Organic shapes that seemed to breathe, covered in what looked like metallic scales that shifted and moved. Some vessels appeared to be growing additional weapons as they prepared for battle. All ships attack pattern Delta, Admiral Ross commanded. Concentrate fire on their lead vessels. The battle began with humanity's finest hour and worst nightmare. Human ships unleashed everything they had: plasma cannons, particle beams, kinetic projectiles, and fusion warheads. The alien shields absorbed most of the damage, but cracks began to appear. When the first alien ship finally exploded, the human fleet erupted in cheers. But the celebration was short-lived. The aliens responded with weapons that defied human understanding. Beams of coherent energy that seemed to eat through ship hulls, projectiles that phased through armor before exploding inside vessels, and swarms of smaller craft that moved like living things. Sarah watched in horror as the UES Marathon, a heavy cruiser, simply ceased to exist, consumed by some kind of alien weapon that left nothing but empty space. The casualty reports flooded in, 30 ships destroyed in the first 10 minutes of combat. Ma'am, they're targeting our command. Vessels specifically, Webb reported. They're trying to break our coordination. Adaptive tactics, Sarah realized. They're learning our patterns as we fight. That's when Chief Morrison's voice crackled over the intercom. Commander, I think I found something. These alien ships are generating massive electromagnetic fields to maintain their organic systems. If we can overload those fields with a coordinated pulse, do it, Sarah ordered without hesitation. Morrison and his team worked frantically as the battle raged around them. The Defiance shook under alien fire, but Sarah kept her ship in the fight, targeting the largest alien dreadnought while Morrison prepared his electromagnetic pulse weapon. Ready, Commander, Morrison announced. But we'll need to get close, really close. Sarah smiled grimly. Webb, set an intercept course for that big ugly ship. All power to forward shields. The Defiance accelerated toward the alien dreadnought, taking devastating fire. Hull breaches erupted along the ship's sides, and Sarah could feel the deck plating buckling under her feet. But they held together long enough to reach optimal range. Fire, Sarah commanded. The electromagnetic pulse erupted from the Defiance's modified weapons array, washing over the alien dreadnought like an invisible wave. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the alien ship's bioluminescent patterns began to flicker and die. Its organic hull started to convulse, and secondary explosions rippled across its surface. It's working, Webb shouted. The alien ship is losing power. But their victory came at a cost. The pulse had drained the Defiance's power systems, leaving them dead in space as more alien ships converged on their position. Sarah watched the tactical display as enemy vessels closed in, knowing her crew had bought humanity precious time and knowledge, even if it cost them their lives. As alien weapons charged to deliver the killing blow, Sarah stood tall on her bridge, proud of what her crew had accomplished. They had proven that humanity wouldn't go quietly into the night. They had shown that even against impossible odds, human ingenuity and courage could find a way to fight back. The electromagnetic pulse that had crippled one alien ship was already being copied by other human vessels. Across the battle zone, more alien ships began to falter as humanity adapted and evolved its tactics in real time. What had started as a massacre was becoming something else entirely, a lesson in why underestimating humanity was always a fatal mistake. The turning point, The electromagnetic pulse weapon transformed the battle in ways neither side had anticipated. Within minutes of Chief Morrison's successful test, every human ship in the fleet was adapting the technology. What humanity lacked in raw firepower, they made up for with adaptability and the desperate creativity that comes from fighting for survival. Commander Sarah Chen watched from the Defiance's auxiliary bridge as her engineering crew worked miracles with damaged systems. The main bridge had been destroyed by alien fire, taking 3 of her officers with it, but her ship was still in the fight. Around them, the battle had evolved into something unprecedented in human military history. "Ma'am, we're picking up chatter from the Zeus and the Wellington," reported Ensign Davis, who had taken over communications after Lieutenant Webb was injured. "They've both successfully deployed EM pulse weapons. The alien formation is starting to break apart." On the tactical display, Sarah could see the tide of battle shifting. The alien ships, which had moved in perfect coordination at the start of the engagement, were now operating as individual units. Their biomechanical hulls flickered with unstable energy patterns, and several vessels had gone completely dark. But the aliens were learning too. Even as their damaged ships struggled with systems failures, their remaining vessels began deploying countermeasures. New shield configurations appeared, and their weapons started firing in different patterns. It was becoming clear that humanity was facing an enemy with the same capacity for rapid adaptation. Dr. Elena Vasquez, working from the ship's makeshift command center, made a crucial observation. "Commander, I've been analyzing the alien response patterns. When we hit them with the EM pulse, it doesn't just disrupt their power systems, it breaks something deeper. I think their ships are linked in some kind of collective consciousness." Sarah turned to face the scientist. "Explain." "Watch the tactical display when an alien ship goes offline," Dr. Vasquez said, highlighting several data streams. "See how the nearby vessels become confused, their movement patterns irregular. It's like they're losing part of their shared awareness." The implications hit Sarah immediately. They're not just ships, they're organs in a larger organism. Exactly, and that gives us a target. Across the fleet, Admiral Ross was reaching the same conclusion. Her flagship, the UES Sovereign, had taken heavy damage but remained operational. Her tactical officers had identified what appeared to be a command vessel at the center of the alien formation. A massive, cathedral-like ship that pulsed with different energy signatures than the others. "All ships, this is Admiral Ross," came the transmission. "We've identified what we believe to be their coordination hub. If we can take it out, we might be able to blind their entire fleet." But reaching the command ship meant fighting through. Dozens of alien vessels and humanity's losses were mounting. Of the 300 ships that had started the battle, fewer than 200 remained operational. Many of those were damaged and running low on ammunition. That's when Captain Maria Santos of the UES Prometheus made a decision that would be remembered in human history. Her heavy cruiser was critically damaged, life support failing, but her fusion reactor was still intact. Instead of retreating, she set course directly for the alien command vessel. "This is Santos," her voice crackled over the fleet communications. "My ship is done for, but my reactor isn't. I'm going to ram their command ship and take it with me. All ships, use the distraction to focus your EM pulses on the surrounding vessels." Sarah watched in awe and horror as the Prometheus accelerated toward the massive alien ship. The alien defenders poured fire into the approaching cruiser, but Santos held her course. At the last moment, she detonated her ship's fusion reactor, creating a miniature star that consumed both vessels in brilliant nuclear fire. The effect on the alien fleet was immediate and catastrophic. Ships threw out. Their formation began spinning out of control, their bioluminescent patterns flashing in what could only be described as panic. Some collided with each other, while others simply shut down completely. "Now," Admiral Ross commanded. "All ships, target the disabled vessels with EM pulses. Don't give them time to recover." The human fleet struck with renewed fury. Every ship in the formation focused their electromagnetic weapons on the confused alien vessels. One by one, the biomechanical ships succumbed to systems failures. Their organic hulls began to decay, as if cut off from whatever force had kept them alive. But the aliens had one final desperate gambit. The surviving ships began to cluster together, forming a defensive sphere around what appeared to be their last command vessel. Energy began building between the ships, creating a massive weapon that dwarfed anything they had used before. Energy. Readings are off the charts, Dr. Vasquez reported. If they complete that weapon, it could sterilize Mars and reach Earth's orbit. Sarah looked at her damaged ship, her exhausted crew, and the impossible odds they still faced. Then she thought about the 2 billion people on Earth, the mining families on Alpha 7 who had already died, and Captain Santos who had just sacrificed everything for humanity's future. Chief Morrison, she called to engineering. Can you give me one more miracle? Morrison's voice came back strained but determined. I can overload our entire power grid, channel everything through the EM pulse array. It'll destroy the ship, but it might be enough to disrupt their weapon. Sarah nodded to herself. Do it, all hands prepare for abandonment procedures. But as her crew began evacuating to escape pods, other ships in the human fleet made the same calculation. The UES Defiant, UES Guardian, and UES Liberty all began overloading their power systems, preparing to sacrifice themselves to save humanity. Belay that order, came Admiral Ross's voice over the communications. All ships coordinate your EM pulse overloads. Hit them simultaneously. If we're doing this, we're doing it together. What followed was the most coordinated sacrifice in human military history. 57 ships overloaded their power systems, simultaneously, creating an electromagnetic pulse that lit up space like a second sun. The alien weapon formation simply ceased to exist, its biomechanical components unable to survive the massive energy disruption. The remaining alien ships, cut off from their command structure and overwhelmed by system failures, began to retreat. They moved erratically, their perfect formations broken, their organic hulls flickering with dying light. Within hours, they had disappeared beyond the outer planets, fleeing into the deep space from which they had come. The human fleet that had started with 300 ships was reduced to fewer than 100 operational vessels, but they had achieved the impossible. Earth was safe, and humanity had proven that even against technologically superior opponents, human courage and ingenuity could prevail. Commander Sarah Chen stood in the observation deck of the rescue ship that had picked up her crew, looking out at the debris field that marked humanity's greatest victory. The cost had been enormous. Over 30,000 military personnel killed, entire families destroyed, ships that had taken decades to build reduced to scrap metal. But humanity had survived, and more importantly, they had learned. The alien. Technology scattered throughout the debris field would advance human science by centuries. The tactics developed during the battle would reshape military doctrine, and the unity forged in the fires of desperate combat would bind Earth's colonies together in ways that peaceful negotiations never could. Dr. Vasquez joined her at the observation window, both women staring out at the stars that no longer seemed quite so empty or quite so safe. Do you think they'll come back? Dr. Vasquez asked. Sarah considered the question carefully. Maybe, but if they do, they'll find humanity ready for them. Today we learned something important. We're not alone in the universe, but we're not helpless either. In the weeks that followed, as humanity began to rebuild and analyze what they had learned, one thing became clear. The aliens had underestimated not just human technology or tactics, but something more fundamental. The human refusal to surrender, the willingness to sacrifice everything for freedom, and the capacity to find hope even in the darkest circumstances. The Atir battle at Mars would be remembered as humanity's first step into a larger, more dangerous universe. But it would also be remembered as proof that no matter what threats emerged from the void between stars, humanity would face them standing tall, united and unbroken. The stars were no longer just humanity's frontier, they were humanity's responsibility to defend.